It's Jared from Strongroots Farm. We've got some hay to mow. We've got stuff to do on our barns back here on the farm, but I have put off our home renovation for 2 years now because I've been trying to get this farm in shape, and now we're getting rain. So this weekend, we are starting the home renovation. We've emptied our fencing stuff out of our gator, loading up some tools. We're going up to the house. We're gonna start first on my wife's new laundry room. Stick around, this should be fun. All right, so this is our little humble hole of a basement. It's kind of just a storage area at the moment. The kids play down here, but we're gonna be ripping out basically all this carpet, building walls in here. So this half here will become the new laundry room where the power panel is. And then all these walls on this side will come out, and then there'll be a doorway here, and this will become a new storage closet. That's kind of the idea. We're gonna start with demo today. So we've got ripping out the carpet. I'm gonna rip out the drywall around these pillars, try to figure out how to get to this beam so that I can attach my new walls there. So there'll be some drywall cutting there. It's dusty, it's messy. It's basically just smashing stuff, putting it in trash cans, hauling it out of here so we can get back to a clean slate to start building our walls. All right, so we've pretty much finished most of the demo. We got all the ceiling ripped out. Originally, we thought we would try to keep this ceiling over this vents, but there was so much space here that they did not box in the way we wanted to do it. And somebody went happy with their 16 penny nail gun, and it got crazy in here. So we just ripped everything out, got back to bare studs, and we'll do it right our way as we're refinishing all of this. So a few things I've learned, and that I've learned over years and years, my kids learned the hard way today. So dad says, don't smash stuff outside. Break stuff into small pieces that'll go into the tractor, walk it out, place it in the tractor. Don't carry a big piece out and bust it outside, drywall. And they didn't listen. And so now there's a freaking plaster mess out on our sidewalks that they're out there scrubbing my sidewalks and washing my sidewalks now for free, because they didn't listen and they made a huge mess. And that's kind of one lesson that I've learned from demoing. Sometimes it's better in your demo to go a little slower and get things off in big pieces. For instance, cabinets, drywall, whatever it would be, instead of just taking a sledgehammer to everything and smashing and breaking everything into small pieces. And it just makes a huge mess that takes forever to clean up. You can see I left to go get some tools, and I come back and they had fun with their hammer smashing a pillar away, and now the carpet's all needs to be cleaned, which this carpet's all getting ripped out anyways, but we do have to vacuum because we're not getting all that done today in this project. So that's just kind of one lesson that I do during demo, taking your time. You can make huge mistakes, taking things apart in pieces versus just cutting and hacking and smashing. The other thing, we had an old Dyson. It was getting bad anyways. My wife already has her brand new vacuum for about a year now. We had this Dyson. We were leaving it in the garage to vacuum our cars out, right? Just a second little old vacuum that didn't work real well. Well, you vacuum drywall dust, and it, within 5 minutes, burnt that motor up. It started smoking. Just too much drywall dust is just too much to handle for that. And we have the shop vac, and so that's what you should be using. That Dyson was better for carpet. It's easier than a shop vac. It just can't handle that kind of construction dust. So got a new filter in the shop vac, rolling on, getting everything clean. Floors are pretty well now. And then I'm going to show you one last thing here that we learned once we ripped up the carpet that was done incorrectly before we got here that we have to fix now. Down here in your concrete, there are cut lines, and these look like these are tool mortared lines where they've taken a tool to make their break line, their cut line, whatever it would be, instead of taking a cutter, and this house is 25 years old, so maybe they didn't have those kind of fancy tools back then. But what they've done, that your concrete will crack and then moisture will come up into your basement through your floor. So what they've done before they put this carpet down was they went and they filled all these cracks with mortar, just a mortar mix. So they took a mortar mix and they just, you know, built it up, water, mixed it from a bag. Then they come in and they smear it all in there. Well, mortar mix doesn't swell and contract. It doesn't flex at all. And so it just cracks. And so all that moisture. So we've had this kind of damp smell down here. We thought, oh, it's just from the sump pump being down here. Keep our dehumidifier running. It's fine. Most of that is from this. The floor has cracks in it, and they didn't use the correct stuff to seal these cracks up. And so now it's cracked again, and we're having to cut, and my little son here is chiseling it out, and we'll shop back that up, and I'll show you how to fix that correctly. Okay, so what I use is Sikaflex, is what I call it. It's Sika Pro Select Sikaflex. They have two kinds. They have a concrete repair or concrete fix, I think it says, and then they have this self-leveling sealant. I'm not sponsored by these things. I'm not getting paid for this. This is what I've used on hundreds of jobs. It is in the concrete section at Home Depot and Lowe's. That's where I get it from. Obviously, I have a big tube. You can do this for your cracks in your shop. If you have crack anywhere in the concrete, it comes out like a thinner caulk, okay? And so you'll put it in and then you'll wait and it will settle down. Then you'll put more in, you'll wait, you'll set it down. If you have a very, like brand new concrete and it has a very nice tight cut line in your concrete, I recommend you get some painter's tape and put on each side, because when this stuff gets on the concrete, it's there forever. So if it smears over the side a little bit, you're gonna know that it's not a nice looking straight line. So on brand new concrete, I will take and blue tape it, put this in, and I buy one of those plastic 1-inch putty knives that's in the paint sections of the Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, and I'll smear it down in some. But you put it in, wait 2 or 3 minutes, you'll see it bubble up, it'll sink. When you get to the height that you want, you stop. And this will level out and harden over 24 hours or so. It's also paintable. So if you're gonna paint your concrete floors in your shop or in your basement or wherever, you can put this in and then paint right over it. That is nice. At that point, if I was painting it, I wouldn't worry about the smear and the tape. That's just extra work. For today, we're putting flooring over top of this. So I'm not gonna tape it off. I'm not gonna worry so much. I'm gonna put it in pretty heavy. It'll bubble up just a little bit, and then I'll just let it go for a little bit, and it'll sink down in, and then we'll just keep adding until it's completely full. But this is what you should be using for those cut lines. It will expand, contract. It won't let moisture up through. It will be hard for years and years and years. You won't have to go back and cut it back out. As long as you put it in layers, let it bubble up and level itself out to where you don't get big air holes, this is the best stuff to use. All right, so we're gonna finish up the kind of cleaning, fixing our cracks, all that, and then we're gonna start framing our walls in, and we'll kind of go through the setup and how I do that. Now, I have no plans. I did not draw this in CAD, so I'm kind of doing it as I go because I've done this so much. I know what I want. It's visually, the plan is in my mind. And so we're gonna start with this underneath the beam framing, and I can get criticized for how I'm gonna do this, but I basically just need to frame in for a door and then decide how much of this room we want to be laundry room and how much of this room we want to be a storage closet. And so I'll start measuring, marking stuff on the floor, thinking about what we want in our design, and we've got stuff in our head, but I'm just going through the motions here. And so there can be mistakes made. If you have not done a bunch of these, I would recommend going to Home Depot or Lowe's in the cabinet section, getting a plan, getting some measurements. That will help you with where you should put the walls and that kind of stuff. Got everything done, and we're starting the framing now. I want to take you through some of the framing things here real quick. I'll move you around and kind of show you some of the aspects of framing in a basement and the choices that we're making. Give me your opinions, what you think, and how we're going to do this. And then we're laying out this laundry room. So the first decision that we had to make was this door. With this beam, and this is why I preach to never pour 8-foot basement walls. Of course, this house is old, it's a block wall. But if you have 9-foot ceilings, it really takes all those problems away. And to add that extra foot to a basement pour here in Ohio is about $2,500, depending on how big the house is, of course. But to add a foot, getting a 9-foot basement wall really helps you with, building and finishing your basement in the future. Just a point there. But our issue here is we have a 76-inch height from the floor to the bottom of this beam. You need about 82 for a standard interior door. So what do? Do you cut your door short? Do you bring the wall out this way and build the wall taller so that you can have a door, or build the wall in? And so this is where we're deciding to use a barn door. So we'll have a slider here that will actually hang up on that beam and slide across this opening. That way you don't lose any more height with door trim. Barn doors are kind of a big thing right now anyways, and they have been for quite a while. But this is a good instance to use a barn door. This is a good placement for a barn door. It maximizes this height, and you can actually keep the opening height of a standard door pretty close, being at 76, and not have to put a door in. Barn doors are, depending on what hardware kit you buy, if you buy an old door, what do? You can do them cheaper, but because of the, people liking them and the fad of barn doors, they're just about the same price as a typical door. But we've decided to do barn doors here and do sliders on the outside for the look and to maximize this height. The next problem we've had in this basement is that nothing is square. In this one room, so we're 138 inches deep from the wall where your camera is at to where I'm gonna build the next wall. We were out 1.25 inches if we built the wall directly underneath that beam. And so that really screws up everything when you try to install square equipment, as in cabinets and countertops. It'll really mess up your walls. So how do you do this? We planted where we wanted, length, width, and then did our diagonals to get our square room, and we found that how bad it was. So now we've decided to just go ahead and make the room not square in order to have a square corner where our cabinets will go. So our cabinets will go down this wall here that we're gonna build with our washer and dryer, and then down this wall here. So we have to make this corner square and just let the rest of the room be how the room is, and you'll never notice it with the square footage in the middle. So how do I do that? It's as simple as 345. And that's the same number I use on everything. Now, if you go diagonal, if you measure diagonal on a square building, room, whatever it would be, they should equal. So if you have length and width of the room, you measure your 4 sides and they're all the same, or the cross sides, A and B sides are the same with each other. The diagonals, if the room is square, should be square. Should be the same measurement. If you're not, I use 345. And so what is that? If you remember the Pythagorean theorem from, junior high algebra, if you had that, you have side A, side B, and then your diagonal side, side C, will come out there. You can get a triangle calculator on your phone in an app, and it will tell you that exact measurement if you want to do that. Or you can cheat by using 345. So here's how it works. You find the corner that you want square. So this is the corner of the room that is really pivotal, that wall and this wall is square. So that's my 90-degree corner in my triangle that I would draw, meaning side A would be over there, side B would come this way, and then the diagonal that would go across is my side C. So I measure out in increments of 4. So you can do just 4 feet and that's fine, but I like to go the biggest distance that I can to give myself the most accuracy. So I measured down this wall 8 foot from this corner that I want to be 90, and I put a mark. And then I measured down this wall that we're gonna build, and so that was my side 4, because now I'm doing 8 feet, and this side is my 3 side, so I went 6 feet. And I made a mark. I'll try to show you here what I did. I made a mark here, and I put a little triangle mark on it just so I know that was my angle mark. And so now I have 6 feet this way and 8 feet this way. My diagonal is always 5. And so since I doubled the 4 and the 3, I'm gonna double the 5, so it's 10. So I measured across and I got 10 feet. And so where I made my 10-foot mark, you can see when I measured my wall, or maybe you can, when I measured my wall from the concrete wall, the line was right here. But when I measured my diagonal at 10, it put it over here about a ½ inch away. So then I was, I know the room is out that far. And then I did it the opposite way. I put my 8 feet here and my 6 feet there with the same 10-foot diagonal, making 2 marks. So now I have 2 marks on my floor, 2 foot apart where they get. And then I run my chalk line from the corner that I wanted 90, and I'm hitting both of those marks, now knowing that this corner is square. The rest of the room is foobarred, but that corner is square, and my cabinets are gonna go here and there. So now my countertop and my cabinets at least will be square in this room. And it's actually out about 3/4 of an inch. This wall is 3/4 of an inch longer than that wall, because that's how bad this house is out of square because of that beam. Now you can see maybe there's like that spray foam up there in the corner of that beam. What should have been done when they built this house is that beam should have been about 4 inches this way, would have made that beam square with this wall. But that's how you do it. So 3, 4, 5, you can double it, you can triple it, as long as it's always in those increments, and that will make sure that corner is square when you're doing your cabinets. And then you build everything off of that corner measurement. The next thing we're gonna do is the part of this room, so you can see there's only about 4 feet here from our chalk line over to the base there. This room was already a storage closet, but we're gonna make the storage closet larger. And the whole idea is that my furnace here is my walkway. So my walkway for all of my storage, everything will stay away from this furnace. It's pretty dangerous to pile everything against your furnace because it doesn't allow your furnace to breathe very well. And you have to move all that crap every time you want to change the filter. So you end up putting the filter changes off, which I have a good point for you that a friend from work showed me about that. I'll talk about in a second. But this is going to be our aisleway now. This wall here will move over. We'll have all kinds of shelves in here to store our stuff neatly in a storage closet. And it's going to allow me to install a new water heater eventually, have some different plumbing things going down here. I'm going to have a alarm and a backup sump pump. So if we're gone, it'll run off water. It doesn't have to run off of electricity. I got a water propelled sump pump. I don't recommend them. They waste a lot of water, but as an emergency backup. So when that sump pump goes up and it doesn't work, it goes out, this thing will kick in, keeping my sump from overflowing, and it has a bell. So when that thing runs, it dings this loud, annoying bell telling me that my sump pump is out to change my sump pump. So I'm gonna put in a brand new sump pump while we're here, while we're doing this plumbing. There is no backflow valve in the sump pump. So you need a backflow valve. When the water goes out, it can't go back in. So what happens is that sump pump pumps all that water out. Whatever's remaining in that tube when it shuts off just runs back in there. Not enough to turn it back on, but enough to not get out of there and stay out of there. So I'm gonna put a backflow valve in. I'm also gonna put quick attaches. So spin on locking knobs down in here. And I'm gonna buy a second sump pump and go ahead and plumb it with that female end so that when one goes out, it's a quick attach. You just take off that quick coupler, put your new sump pump down in, quick attach, lock in the new sump pump, and your old sump is bad, and then you have however long to get another replacement to sit there to always be prepared for sump pump problems. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that while all this is getting tore out. We're gonna do all that plumbing in here, but I wanted to show you as we go through the framing, kind of what I'm doing. And then we're gonna go through and mark out our floors. So what do I mean by that? When you have a room, we decided where this wall would go based off of what we wanted in here and the cabinets. So we said, okay, we need this and this and this. She wanted a place for the dirty laundry to be in bins. She wanted a folding table. She wanted things, a rack to hang stuff on. She wanted a countertop over top of the washer and dryer. She wanted some under storage. She wanted drawers. She also is going to use this room as her paint studio when we're done. So she wanted a place to set her easel and a little sink, like we're going to call that a bar sink, but it's just like a 12 or 18-inch sink. And so a little sink to wash brushes and that kind of stuff. And so basically we started planning, okay, we're going to measure from this wall. We want this cabinet here, then we measure over, then we want the space under there, then we want cabinet, cabinet, cabinet. And that told us where our wall should be. And then I add an extra ½ inch because we're going to have sheeting on the walls. Then I add another ½ inch for a gap against the concrete block just to give me some space to play with the countertop. and then that'll all be covered with trim. You'll never see that, but that gap doesn't force me to be super, super tight. The next problem we have is that all my floors are not perfectly level, which will mean that all my cabinets won't be perfectly level. So there's a few ways you can deal with this. You can use shims and jack everything up, or you can use concrete floor leveler. So you'll build a form, which we're gonna do on the floor. You make this stuff really thin and it pours and it levels over 12 hours. So it's only gonna add a concrete cap on this, maybe a quarter to a half inch, raise our counters up a little bit, cabinets up a little bit, but my floors, if they're lower over here than they are over here, will now all be level and my cabinets should sit pretty level. This isn't able to do this on a subfloor. So I've seen people try it on subfloors. I'm just not happy with how that works. So I usually end up putting a sheet of plywood, shimming the plywood underneath, building it up if I'm using it on a subfloor, wood subfloor. But on concrete floors, this stuff works really good. And so we're gonna be doing that to level our concrete out. But basically, we started marking out our floors. Okay, we measure over, my first cabinet goes here, make a mark. Then we want this gap for baskets. Then we have another mark for our corner cabinets. And we lay it all out on the floor before we even go and buy the cabinets. We went to the cabinet store last night and they give you a nice sheet with every cabinet that you can order, everything that's there. So we know what sizes are available in the cabinets that we want, that they have on the shelf. We could special order, but we want to buy cheaper on the shelf cabinets because this is just a laundry room and we want to try to finish this, you know, in a 4 to 5 day build. In and out quick, one-man team, or my wife helping me, my kids helping me, have you seen? But it's really just a family project. We don't have contractor crews in here doing all this. So this is how we're laying it out. We're gonna keep going with some framing and then we're gonna get back and I'll show you how to do that floor level. All right, we got the outer wall here framed and I'll show you a snafu that I ran into while we were framing. But we now also have our second electrical panel. I'll take you over and show you and tell you why I'm gonna do that. And then we'll have to do a Lowe's run tonight to get a few boards once we figured out how we were gonna do a few things. So all of this lumber I had in stock here at the farm. So every time I go into Lowe's and if I need 2x4s, I just buy 20 of them. And we got this far with what we had here at the farm. So now we're gonna go back to Lowe's, get everything that we've calculated out and then some to replace my stock. And we've got our floor Sikaflexed, all the cracks done, and everything kind of lined out and marked out where we want. So we have to level the floor, which I'm gonna get that tonight, the floor leveler. And then we will start setting our walls and our cabinets and kind of get all that kind of situated, and I'll go through that with you. But I'll wrap it up tonight for this video and make that a second part. But let's go through a few things first. One, about your furnace filter that I talked about, and then in this door, I wanna show you this. Furnace filters. We have to change the furnace filter. It's been dusty down here. There is an air vent down here. So I'm gonna replace that. But my buddy talked to me about that, and I'm bad about this, about changing it every month, every quarter, whatever your regulation, whatever you wanna do, right? Whatever your timing is that you wanna change it, I often forget that. And so my buddy said, why don't you just Amazon subscribe and save? Just set it for, you know, every other month, every 3 months, and then when it arrives, it tells you to go ahead and replace it. And so that's a great idea. Now, I'm not a huge Amazon supporter, but we buy a lot of stuff there, but I have a huge stack of filters. So with that same mindset, I just went ahead and set an alarm in my phone at nighttime when we're typically eating dinner. So it'll go off and say, it's due to change your filter, man. Go down and change the filter. So that's something that you could think about. Hope that little tidbit helps you. Next thing is we have a sub panel, right? So I'm adding a second panel. I don't need it. I have a little bit of room, but I have a plan for this for the future. And so it's gonna make it easy for me to wire everything, not have to worry about anything being hot, and then run a hot wire from my original panel into my new panel. So why am I adding a new panel? Well, we're doing a whole complete remodel here of this house, gutting about half of it. And so I wanna rewire some stuff, but I also wanna keep what we have in the walls working as I'm remodeling. So I can take a circuit, change stuff out. A second panel helps that. Second thing is this panel is gonna become my critical load panel. So this wall here is gonna be our battery backup system with our solar that we will eventually add. And then it will flow into a critical load panel. So everything in there will run 100% of the time. When the power goes out, the battery will run everything that is wired into that panel. Now I am gonna do probably a grid boss. That's kind of from Signature Solar. That's kind of where I'm headed. I've done a lot of studying. I'm not sponsored by Signature Solar. I would love to be, but I'm not. But that's kind of what I'm planning on doing. So once it feeds everything that's in the critical load panel, then it will backfeed the grid, which the way I'm setting my system up is that minimal grid feed. I don't want to feed the grid any more than I have to. So we're going to have enough batteries to do that. But if the power goes out and it cuts that line, it will only run what is in my critical load panel, which is lights, outlets, internet, my furnace fan, but not my unit. I have solar mini splits that we're going to be adding. It will run those just to keep the house warm or cool enough. And it will run freezers and refrigerators so nothing goes bad. It'll run the sump pump. You know, your major things that when the power goes out that you don't want to shut off. But we're not going to live in luxury where it runs the entire house per se. So I'm not going to run a water heater because the water heater will stay hot for a few hours. We don't have power go out here very often in Ohio. If it goes out for 2 to 3 hours at the most. The most I've seen it in my lifetime was like 48 hours. So it's not a lot, and our solar would still feed most things. So it's not gonna run the hot water, probably not gonna run the washer dryer. We can go for 2 days without washing our clothes, and it's probably not gonna run my large HVAC unit outside. I think it's a 5-ton. Could it? Yes. And if I see that the solar system is running it well enough, I can easily move stuff over into the critical load, but that's why we're doing a separate panel. The other thing we didn't talk about was this room here. That's kind of my kids' playroom now. We got a carpet ball, and over here we got the basketball thing. It's just a little kid's playroom. My son's drum set underneath sheets so it doesn't get dirty because he's real particular about that thing. But eventually this is going to become like a movie TV room. This is going to be a kid's living room where they can go. They can study, they can play music, and they can watch TV or play video games. Perhaps we don't do a lot of that, but have friends over, it's fine, right? So we're gonna wire this wall up as if we're gonna have a media center on this wall. Everything in the wall so you can feed from the TV down, conduit all built in, all the electric up there to hang the TV on the wall, surround sound, whatever we would do. So I gotta think about all that stuff now and put all that in, even though it's not gonna be finished when we do the laundry room. We're gonna focus on the inside of the laundry room for my wife. But that's the kind of things we're doing here. So I'm looking for ideas from you. If you have some things that you're like, man, we wish we would have done this when we were doing that. We wish we would have put under cabinet lights or whatever it would be. Something fancy, whatever you think, I can do it. And so this is the time to do it when you're in studs, when you're framing. So throw me those ideas. Throw me some ideas about what you would like to have down here, what you would see. And we'll go through that. So sound systems, we play a lot of music. I encourage music because my kids can play in the worship band, which they do. And so I thought about running some wires in the walls for like a music board. Not into all that stuff that much yet, but I think I could probably just set that up in the corner. But if you have some ideas, let me know. I'm really appreciate those. There you have it. That's it for tonight. We're going to run to Lowe's, get some stuff, continue on that this weekend and throughout this end of this week. Get this thing done. This video series, I'm trying to show you some things that I catch, but this isn't a teaching video necessarily about how to do your laundry room. There's not a lot of good videos out there I found when I was doing the research to show you how to set up a laundry room with the counter above, which I needed help with that. Like, how do I build it? How do you make it structurally sound? What are the best cabinets? Can you put cabinets, your washer and dryer up on cabinets? What's the best way to do that? So that's the main reason I'm trying to make this video. So I'm going to show you how we do things, maybe give you some ideas. And at the end, when I show you the final product, I will talk about some of the ideas that we had and why we did or did not do them. But you might like that idea better than we did. And so I'll show you some of those things with our constraints. But there's helpful little hints and tips throughout as we go. And if you have questions about how I would do something, post those in the comments. And as we go through this series, as we go through these few videos that I'm going to make on this, I'll try to answer those for you and try to help you. have a lot of experience building. This is our 11th place. We've built 11. We're refabbing this home, but this is our 11th home that we would have built or refabbed. And so I tried to do some of that stuff to help you, but this is really just part of building a homestead and a farm. My wife needs a better laundry room. We need another bedroom. So the old laundry room is going to become a little kid's bedroom, which is 9 by 11. So getting a bigger laundry room, solar backup, all that kind of stuff is cool. And it's part of rehabbing your farm or homestead. If you buy a house that's already built like we did, I would have rather built a brand new house, a super high efficient, all new technology home, but where we sit and land and finding, that's kind of what we ran into. Helped. Thanks for watching. Click like along with us if this is your first video. Lots of farm and homestead videos here. Until next time, thanks for watching.